Hello again. So today what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to look into the Nextion gauges. So where I want to start off today is the example here. So if you click onto the gauges, it'll show you this setup that they have for the gauges. On the left here, this is plus, and on the right, this one's minus. So we're gonna look into what it does. So on the one on the right, just goes round and round and round and round, and then it stops like at a 0 point. And let's look at the left one here. I'm trying to get this one to go as fast as I can. Okay, here it goes. I'm trying to prove a point here. Okay. So if you notice here, it stops at a point. So if you actually had a gauge that you would like to use, like this one, as an example, if you want to use this gauge, it stops right here. It really can't go any further. So this is how it's designed. So let's look into the programming for this one, and then we'll go into further details into setting that up to where you can use it as a full 360. So we'll exit out of that. So let's go into the gauges. So we click on the right for the gauges. And so let's look at this one here. So when I click this one on the left, it comes up on the attribute. So if you look at the value under the attribute, it's 225. This means 225 degrees. So if you look at here, it's at 225 degrees. So if we look at this one, the value is 310, so it's at 310 degrees. So once it gets all the way around over here where it stopped, it's 360 degrees. It stops at 360 or 0. So the original state for this is if it didn't have one, if you just barely started off with a one, it's 0. And so what it does is, my dog here, being a pain in the posterior. So what it actually does is it starts off here and then it just goes all the way around, round. When it hits 360, it just stops. And you can't go anymore. So in reality, you would have to set up a gauge. Let's see here. You would have to set up a gauge, something similar to this one. And you would have to start off here, like at a 45 degree, and just go all the way around and stop here. But if you notice, let's look into this one again. Because this one's not really fully set up, as in, it just gives you, this is just a simple example, so you have to set up your programming for this. So this one starts off at 0 here, but if you minus it, it actually goes all the way around to the actual 0 or 360. And this gauge here just goes all the way around again. So it's, in the sense, it's useful, but you gotta add more programming into it. And that's what I want to look into today. Is what if you want to use it more than just start off here at 0 and just go at 360. So I have set up an example here of that programming. Okay, so here it is. This one's an example I had set up. Okay, so this is my minus button, this is my plus button. And this one I had set up just a number box so I could see at what degrees we're at. And so this one here is my gauge. And this one's here is my gauge. And this one just goes back into the past videos. How do you set up the background? It's all the same. You have to set up the pictures themselves here. Do I have an example? No, in my program. No, I don't have an example in my programming, so I can't show you how it would look with a gauge. I have yet to set one here. So we're gonna start off with this one here. To make it even simpler into my explanation, let's look into how I set up this one here. So I had set it up. This one's pointing at 355 degrees. So what if we want to do a full 360, you know, all the way around, you know, nonstop? Or what if we wanted our gauge, you know, at 270 and to go our way around all the way over here, you know, as opposed to just stopping right at 360 or 0. You want to just work at that point of the area itself, or a half moon in the sense. You want to use this half itself as opposed to using this half. So you have to use if statements. So let's look into the if statement here. The if statements themselves have to be added onto the buttons. So for example, we're going to add the numbers to this box here. Or actually, no. What I added first was the to make this turn. To make it turn, it's z0 dot value equals z0 dot value plus 1. So it's 355 degrees plus 1 is 356, 357. By the time it hits 360, by the programming itself, it stops there. It doesn't go any further. It doesn't go all the way around anymore. You can minus it and it'll go all the way around this way, but it'll stop at 0. But what we're trying to do here is just get rid of that piece of the puzzle. So this is the next part. It's part of the programming itself. If, and then you open bracket, z0 dot value val equals, that's a double equal 360. So if it hits at the 360 point, open the squiggly bracket and then z0 dot value, the value for z0 equals 1, and then close squiggly bracket. And then here, this part of the programming itself, it just puts the numbering here. N1 dot value equals Z0 dot value. So in reality, it's not going to hit, once it hits 360, what's going to end up doing is just jump to 1. So what it pretty much does, it just skips 360 and just jumps to 1. The programming in itself is it's set up to where once you hit a 360 or once it hits a 0, it just does not move anymore. So to go around that, you set it up for 360 and then it goes to number 1. So let's look at that. Okay, this is how I set up mine, just for testing here. So if I push the first one, the next one up is, mine was set up for 355, just so I can go around it faster, as opposed to clicking so many times. So it was set up for 355, so I clicked it once, the next one 356, 357, 358, 359. So we had set it up to once it hits 360, it just jumps to 1. Because once, like I said, once it hits 360 or 0, the programming itself, it just won't do anything else. So the next one is 1. And then, of course, you can go all the way around, see? The original programming won't let you do that. So this is a way around the gauges itself. But just like the rest of the... so the gauges program itself, it's not much of a difference as to the button itself, to where you have to set up the background picture, whether you want it solid or crop image, if you want the background to itself. This one was local. I didn't use it as global because we're not using it into another page. And that's it. So what we went ahead and did today was we just explained more of a complaint explain, as into the gauge itself and the programming itself. Hope you find this informative. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up just to let me know you're out there and you find this informative, and you have a wonderful day.